Okay, so guys, we're going to be watching a dialogue exchange between Jacob Rees-Mogg of the Conservative Tory Party and Rosie Writing, who is, I believe, the Labour MP for Kettering. And this is going to be in relation to illegal immigration. It's not going to be a heated debate. They're just going to be giving their points, and Jacob Rees-Mogg's going to be talking about how the French are being given hundreds of millions of pounds and they are inactive. On top of that, the RNLI, which is an English charity group that rescue migrants at sea. So what we're seeing is, number one, migrants that are at sea, in the sea, don't want to be rescued by the French because they don't want to be taken to Calais. They want to be taken to UK. Why wouldn't they? There's 4-star hotels, there's subsidized payments, there's more incentive to be in the UK than France. So they want to be rescued by, the RNLI. In addition to that, they're going to be talking about French coast guards that are basically just inactive. They're not doing anything. They're assisting the RNLI. Like, yeah, guys, come save as many as you can and take them back to the UK. We don't want to deal with them. They're even giving them life jackets. So they're giving the asylum seekers life jackets so that if you do fall into the sea and it's past the Greenwich Meridian line, then, that's the problem for, the UK. And the charity RNLI will come and save you and take you to the United Kingdom. So we're seeing two things here. We're seeing, number one, the immigrants want to be rescued by the RNLI. And number two, the French doing everything they can to ensure that, even if you're in danger in the sea or whatever the case may be, let's assist you and give you all the tools so that you can go to the United Kingdom and not stay in France. So they're basically complicit in this and they're receiving hundreds of millions of pounds from the UK government.
Jacob, Nigel Farage said a few years ago that the RNLI were running a taxi boat service. Actually, they're saving the day for the country, aren't they?
Well, you've got
because the border force is overwhelmed.
But you have got to rescue those in peril on the sea. You just have to, and the RNLI exists to do that. It does worry me that the French are escorting people to make it easier to get across. Why are we giving them hundreds of millions of pounds for them to help a taxi service? That seems to me to be wrong, but saving people in peril on the sea must be the right thing to do.
If the RNLI have to save a migrant or, I don't know, a surfer who gets into trouble, who should they go to first?
Well, this is one of the terrible dilemmas that AI is finding difficult to work out with automated cars. If you're going to run over a mother with a baby, is it better to do that or to run into the window of a barber's shop where there may be people having their hair cut? And these
what should the RNLI do? It's an unanswerable question.
There aren't right answers to these moral questions. All life is valuable. Every life should be protected, and you should always make the greatest effort to save life. That is always a moral imperative.
Rosie, what does it say about our official response that a charity are the people that are having to come in and pick people up because the official border force can't do it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jacob here. All life does need to be protected, and we've heard far too many individuals lose their life trying to cross the channel. That is why no one should be making that journey in the first place.
A few weeks ago, Jackie Smith, the skills minister, who's a former Home Secretary, was on Newsnight, and we asked her how many gangs have been smashed, and this is her answer.
So how many gangs have you smashed so far?
Well, this is an ongoing law enforcement activity. We inherited an incredibly difficult situation.
Is it 50? Is it 10? Is it 0?
Where people are being forced by criminals into boats and losing their lives as they cross.
No, we know what the problem
channel.
is. We know what the problem is.
And we're already.
I'm asking how many gangs you've
smashed. And we're
smashed.
already beginning to make progress on that.
Just so I'm clear, have you smashed any gangs so far?
I have no doubt that the work that we're already doing has begun to disrupt that activity. But it was absolutely.
So how many?
But it was absolutely, Victoria, deep-rooted.
Is there an update on the number of gangs that have been smashed?
Well, as I said, the Borders Bill is going through Parliament at the moment and when we return from recess, and that gives those counter-terrorism powers to be able to go after the gangs. But there is a parliamentary process. We've only been in a year and that is going through that process.
Why not make it a piece of emergency legislation that goes through all its Commons phases in one day?
Because part of the strength of our Parliament is that there's proper scrutiny. I know individuals who are on the Bill Committee, and it's right that legislation, so that we get strong legislation that can actually do its job, that it goes through that parliamentary process properly.
I looked at the RNLI's income the other day. They're just back to that aspect of the story. They get 1% of their income from the government. The rest is from donations. If they're doing such a good service for the country, rescuing migrants, should the government give them a bit more money?
I don't know the details about their funding and what their funding situation is at the moment, but they are obviously doing an incredible job and helping save lives.
Okay, Tony, that point that Jacob was making a minute ago about the French Coast Guard escorting the boats, what is actually going on there?
So what the French position has been thus far is that they obviously don't want drownings in their waters, but they will not rescue migrants at sea like we do. And the reason for that is because the migrants don't want to be rescued by the French, because if they are, then they're going to be taken back to Calais. So the policy up until now has been to make sure that they do try what they can do to minimise drownings, but at the same time they will actually not bring people onto French vessels. They will escort them, and there's even evidence of them handing out life jackets to some of them to make sure that they do remain safe until such time as they reach UK waters. That is a matter of French policy that needs to be taken up by the French government, because that is the position that they have taken thus far. Therefore, anybody who gets into the water and gets waterborne from the beaches is pretty well safe until they reach the Meridian line, where we are obliged, as Jacob said, to collect them under international law, the law of the sea. So the business model is very robust from a smuggler and a migrant point of view, and that's what we need to break.
Jacob, what should the French Coast Guard be doing if the people refuse to be rescued in French waters, if they try and rescue them?
Well, you asked a very good question about the funding of the RNLI. Perhaps His Majesty's government should fund the French Lifeboat Institute and get them to go out and rescue people who are in danger in French waters if the French Coast Guard refuses to do it. It's absolutely ridiculous that people in peril in French waters are pushed over into English waters. This is French connivance in getting as many illegal immigrants over to us as it possibly can. They've got a very big problem themselves.
Are you saying Emmanuel Macron is on the same side as the smuggling gangs?
I'm saying the French are not dealing with this properly, and they get hundreds of millions of pounds from us. The Belgians do it much more effectively. The Belgian success rate of stopping boat crossings is very high. The French is very low. They are offering an escort service.
Because fewer crossings start in Belgium.
Well, fewer crossings in Belgium because they're less likely to succeed. Success breeds success in this way for law enforcement. But the French seem to be completely cavalier about it. They don't really care, and they're milking us for all they can get. I think we should be very clear with them. We're not going to give them more money unless they start doing this properly and not doing the taxi service element, which is such a racket.
Okay, Rosie, yesterday nearly 900 people arrived in one day. The Bell Inn in Epping, where there was a protest about migrants being housed there, has got 79 rooms. So basically 11 hotels worth arrived yesterday. That's not sustainable, is it?
No, it's not sustainable. Like I said, the numbers are too high, but also we have had to work through that asylum backlog so that people aren't in those hotels, and we don't really have any visibility of the numbers. We inherited from the Conservatives an asylum backlog because they just put it in the too difficult to deal with box. We have already committed to ending the use of these really expensive hotels before the end of this Parliament. In my constituency, there used to be hotels. There isn't now. I know that they were disruptive.
Where are the migrants instead?
Well, in my constituency.
Yeah, if they're not in hotels, they haven't disappeared.
Well, my local authority covers multiple constituencies, so it's hard to say the details. But we've already said that we've removed 35,000 people who don't have the right to be here. And if you don't process their claims, you don't know if they do or don't have the right to be here. And if they do have the right to be here, it is right that they're integrated into our communities so that communities don't feel the brunt of the hotels.
Quickly, Jacob.
Okay, there is a problem with this, that giving them processing means they get to be here forever, and we want to get rid of them. We want to deport
but they're here
them.
in the hotels.
They need to be deported. They need to be...
without having their asylum claims processed.
No.
How do you know?
You cannot be allowed to claim asylum if you have come into this country illegally. That's what the Conservative government did. They should not be processed, they should be removed, they should be deported. That's what the British people want. They want this to stop. And it won't stop if you process them and then allow their claims. 90+% of Syrian asylum seekers are getting their claims approved. Okay. They need to be removed.
We can't remove them if we don't process.
Send them to Rwanda.
A discussion to be continued.
Simple. You know, Jacob Rees-Mogg basically just articulated the concerns of what's on the majority of Brits' minds. You know, they're not interested in conversation. They want it to stop. I'd have to disagree with him on one point where he was talking about the UK should fund the French Lifeboat Institution. so that they can be more proactive when people are drowning, you know, near French seas. No. You know, the UK already give France hundreds of millions of pounds, so why should they fund them anymore? You know, the French need to be more proactive in relation to, you know, immigrants that are drowning. You know, they're getting money, hundreds of millions of pounds, so why should the UK government give any more? That's just going to come out of my money, your money, you know, taxpayers' money, so why should we suffer for that, you know? So it doesn't make sense. The hundreds of millions they get in, they should utilize that to sort the problem out and actually be serious on it. But I doubt they're going to do so. You know, when you've got a weak Labour government, you don't need to do much. You know, you just need to act and talk like you're going to do something. You know, just give some lip service, because you know that, you know, across the pond, you know, in the United Kingdom, you've got, you know, weak people, you know, in Parliament. So they're not going to enforce anything. So yeah. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.